Yeah.
Who did the music for that?
It's a very young Italian composer called Marco Robino. Yeah.
I'm very stunned because it's so effective. It introduces some three-dimensionality into the paintings, which I think is very stunning. But I'm interested when you attack, not attack, but when you interpret. It's a Freudian slip. For example, the Cubist painting of the Greenaway or even Jackson Pollock, you obviously have painters who resist three-dimensionality in every single way. So how, of course, you will change your treatment, or how do you approach this? It must be a lot harder, perhaps.
Yes, well, obviously, the Night Watch and Last Supper have a similarity. They're both in the figurative tradition. They're very much about notions of obtaining reality in one way or another. Though I do think that Da Vinci is far more schematic and symbolic and metaphorical than ever the high tradition of the Night Watches. And we will necessarily tackle each film according to its characteristics as we see them. The Rembrandt certainly is about light, so we're certainly manipulating light. This is much more, I think, to do not only with religious presence in order to fulfill some notion of not wishing to be just simply intellectually formalistic, but also certainly to concentrate much more on things like perspective and silhouette and the notion of 2 dimensions and 3 dimensions. With the Jackson Pollock, our procedures are going to be very much based upon process. So in a sense, we're going to scrape all the paint off a Jackson Pollock and start at the beginning again. So you'll be able to trace the actual activity. So that'll be notions of that. We want to deal in movement in the Sura, and you can imagine what we could do with Monet's water lilies, which is all a question of shimmering water. We'll be able to introduce all sorts of notions of movement in terms of that. And of course, each painting will be tackled separately. The problems of Las Merinas are fascinating, as I don't know if you can picture that painting in your mind. It's very much about symmetry and mirror imaging. So we will actually extend the edges of the painting further. I think there are 12 Velasquez in the same room, and they are prepared to take all those Velasquez out so that we can just isolate this phenomenon. And we will actually use mirrors as well to continue the confabulation. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering about your notion of narrative and how you're treating narrative in this time-based medium.
Well, certainly as soon as you introduce time, the necessity is to fill that time with some temporal substance. And you can see our strategies certainly from the Night Watch. Here, I suppose it's much more, isn't it, like a VJ-DJ performance here. We're utilizing the music, although I have to say that the composer did write the music according to our dictates rather than the other way around. You see, for some people, we've added one slight vulgar blasphemy in terms of this, although we didn't actually interfere at all with Leonardo's draftsmanship and painterly notions, but we did, as it were, bring back the blood on the table in order to make a representation of what this whole sacrifice is about. Christ's blood, in Christian terms, is shed for the world and comes streaming off that table. I have to say our first go at it was far more grand, guignol, and vulgar, as you would imagine, so we had to tastefully push it back. I'm still not sure whether it was a good idea. I'm still not sure whether we should have done it.
I was going to ask about the feet, about Christ's feet.
Well, I'm glad you noticed that. I just realized, looking the second time, in about 1700, the monks cut a hole in the center of the painting. The painting is in a refectory, obviously where the monks ate, most appropriate, Last Supper in a refectory. These Dominican refectories always try to oppose a crucifixion with a Last Supper. So on the opposite wall of Santa Maria del Grazia, you do have the crucifixion, which indeed we also lit as part of our performance, so you could see that connection. But the kitchens were round the back of the painting. And apparently the story goes the monks were fed up with getting cold food. It had to come round about route. So some abbot actually dug a hole in the wall so they could get to the kitchens very quickly. And in doing so, they got rid of Christ's feet. And we, of course, have put Christ's feet back again, based upon 2 copies done by a Da Vinci pupil about 5 years after he painted it.